Hi guys, welcome to the 2x e-commerce podcast show. And this is the podcast dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. So if you're looking to grow, metrics such as conversions, traffic, and ultimately sales, you are tuned into the right show. Now for the next 30 to 60 minutes, you're going to enjoy this one. You guys love direct to consumer stories, D2C businesses, D2C stories. This one is particularly very interesting. They're called manly bands, right? They are an affordable and unique tungsten and titanium wedding band ring exclusively for men. They have been around for 3 years. They're doing over 8 figures now, and they have employed particular acquisition channels such as content marketing, Google, and Facebook advertising. I know you guys love Facebook advertising, by the way. And they're also an international brand. You also love stories around international expansion. And I'm just here with the founder, Johnathan Ruggiero. He
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing? He's a super interesting, laid-back guy based now in Utah, I believe. He's just got an amazing story to tell. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome John to the show. Welcome, John.
Hey, thank you, Kunle. Nice to see you.
Before we kick off today's show, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x eCommerce. Fantastic. I probably haven't done you justice with the intro. Could you take a minute or so to introduce yourself, please, John?
Sure, absolutely. My name's John. I'm one of the co-CEOs of Manly Bands, and we are a DC brand that started about 3 years ago in the men's wedding ring space.
Awesome. Okay, right. So Manly Bands just looks the part from my perspective. As a man, even when I want to, get another wedding band, I you will be the go-to. And I'm not, patronizing you by any, stretch of the money. Your designs are, very unique. How did you come up with the idea? Because I very much resonate with it, and I would probably share this for those of you listening to this on watching this on the YouTube channel. I'll just show you what it looks like. So this is Manly band. They just look the part. The material, they look industrial, and the price point also is not bad at all, as compared to your feeble looking gold or gold standard gold rings. So how did you come up with the idea, John?
Sure. So it actually came from my own personal experience. When my wife and I were engaged to get married back in 2016, I had a hard time actually finding a wedding ring that I liked and that fit. I have large fingers, and when I went to a jeweler the first time, not only could he not size me, which is a huge problem, but they didn't have any rings that were even in the section of my size. So he's like, look, you can order from this catalog if you want. And I was like, wow, I can't try it on. I can't really see what it's going to look like. The catalog had no pictures. It was really horrible. And I said, God, there's got to be a better way to do this. Like, I want to be as excited about my wedding band as my wife is about hers. And, she was in there and she's like, oh my gosh, there's such a huge selection and different materials. And again, for me, I just had this catalog with serial numbers and it said, plain white gold or plain gold. And it was just not a very good experience. So we had moved to Florida, we had gotten married, and we said, you know what, let's see if we can solve some of these problems. And we started researching and figuring out, okay, if I was able to have any wedding band I want, would I choose? What materials would I choose? What styles? What designs? And then, you know, perhaps most importantly is what price point would I be willing to pay? You know, like her ring was over $1,000, and we'd already spent so much on the wedding. I didn't want to spend, you know, $700, $800, $900 on a plain ring. You know, if I was super excited about it, I might spend a little bit, but certainly the options that I had were not anything to get excited about. So we kind of set down this road to kind of redefine the men's wedding band purchasing experience. And we wanted to make sure that we could offer things like really unique and interesting styles that you really didn't see anywhere else. You know, a good price point, you know, $200 to $300 was, you know, less than what a guy would see at a traditional jewelry store. And again, this time it was for like a really unique design. We also wanted to make sure that there was a lot of options. Like let's have a whole bunch of different styles. You know, when you go to a jewelry store now, even if you can find your size, you probably only have 5, 10, maybe 15 options. So we wanted to really change that too. And, you know, we made sure that we had, you know, over 200 different styles. And I think currently on our site, we have well over 300, and we're adding new ones every week. So we wanted to take all those pain points that we had at a traditional jeweler, and we wanted to fix it and make it something that a guy could really get excited about.
Okay, interesting. And what's your background? Are you an engineer? How did you sort of figure out the materials? Because that's very unique to Mani bands.
Sure. No, I am not an engineer. I'm just a regular old guy who likes to figure out what he likes and how to kind of share that with other guys with similar taste, I guess. My background is more in web development, marketing, that sort of thing. Also content creation. I did a lot of video and photography work back in the day at a company called Getty Images for a number of years when we were living in LA. And then, so we kind of took some of that experience, applied that to, you know, building the website and setting up the products. And my wife is super creative and is also an actor. And so she kind of brought her creative mind to kind of how we define the rings. So each ring on the site is a different character. So we name each ring, we give it a really creative and fun description. And, you know, I think that creativity has really kind of helped us kind of stand out from the traditional, you know, designs that you might see at a store. So instead of, you know, 6mm beveled titanium on our site, you know, you're seeing, you know, the cowboy, which is, you know, koa wood and black zirconium, and, you know, and it's just a much better experience.
It's a persona really to the product, right. You know, and if you can relate with that lifestyle, you'd be more attracted to, you're likely to be more attracted to it. So how did you come up with your MVP, and had you gotten married at the time of board? Were you the guinea pig for more or less for the first you know, set or first ring you got to manufacture?
I was, yeah. I have a number of rings in my little ring case. I probably have like 30 at this point. Yeah, exactly. So we sat down and we said, okay, what would I like? Like, you know, as just a regular dude, like, you know, what would get me excited? And of course, I wasn't generally excited what my father wore, what my grandfather wore. You know, I wanted something just different. Like, I don't want anything too flashy, but I didn't want just what we call, you know, the same old boring wedding band. So we looked at different materials like koa wood from Hawaii with, like I said, black zirconium or titanium. We've since branched out, and now we offer really cool materials, which I love, meteorite, with dinosaur bone. And like, there's so many different things that you can incorporate into a ring design now to really make it different and unique to yourself. And that's kind of how we started. We said, what would I like? What would my friends like? What would Michelle like? Like, and we kind of just created from there. And we ended up really putting together a great collection, I think.
So how many products were in the initial collection?
I think initially we had about 60 designs. Okay. Yeah, which was still significant. But so we started with about 60, and we kind of saw, okay, what's working, what's not. And we kept kind of reiterating the product line based on feedback from customers. You know, we try to be really close to our customers, so we're always sending out surveys or, you know, just emails to try to learn more. We connect with them on social media quite a bit, or DMs through Instagram. And we're always soliciting feedback. Hey, what do you think of this? Or, what style do you prefer, this one or this one? And we kind of narrowed it down to what we think, guys generally like the most, depending on, their lifestyle and preferences. And we just kind of made small changes to each line until we had a line that we felt that, guys really responded to.
Interesting. Obviously, with 60 products, from the get-go, there's still the challenge of sizing.
Sure.
So how did you sort of cope with inventory management at the start of the business? And were you bootstrapped all through, or what did it look like?
Yeah, so we bootstrapped the business from the beginning, mostly on a credit card, which I do not recommend. We were very lucky. Yeah, we were very fortunate that that all worked out, but it was very scary in the beginning. There were many sleepless nights, but we came through, and yeah, we just kind of figured it out, and we got really fortunate.
Okay. Yeah. So you had the products. So do you keep stock of all sizes, or do you,
right.
What does it look like? Or
no,
do you
exactly.
just have it and then resize it down? And if you're using a 3PL company, what happens, what kind of, they're not going to resize, if like you're a jeweler, you could, easily resize in a store and then ship it. But what does it look like in terms of fulfillment, inventory, and also forecasting?
Sure. So that whole process has kind of developed over time quite a bit. Initially, we did a lot of math, which was really crazy. But we had spreadsheets and Google Sheets and charts and graphs, and we would actually watch the kind of the purchase trends, so we could kind of see what we call the bell curve in sizes. And what we found is that, so we offer size 5 through 17 with half sizes in between. So what we found was that most of our customers would fall kind of somewhere in between that 10 and 13, or 9 and 13, I think was the official window. So what we did is, when we purchased inventory and did our forecasting, is we always applied this logic to that forecasting model. So we said, okay, this style sold X amount last month. Let's go ahead and figure out, okay, what sizes should we kind of have on hand now? And then we would go ahead and purchase those styles ahead of time. So we did keep inventory. We still keep inventory for, I'd say, probably about 30% of all of our rings. We call them ready to ship rings. They're rings that we keep in our warehouse that we operate out of our office here in Utah. And there's quite a few of them, and we have them all packaged and ready to go. We ship same day. The other 70% or so of our offering is actually what we call made to order. So okay, we'll craft those as they're ordered. And those are generally some of the more expensive styles with some of the more premium materials, because it's just not really cost effective to keep those on the shelves. So, and then of course, the bigger question is, how do we handle sizing? And that's a good question, because that is probably one of our biggest challenges. I don't know about your listeners or other guys watching, but I had no idea what my ring size was. I didn't even know I had big fingers. So I was like, well, you go into a jeweler, and when he tells you, oh yeah, sorry, we can't even size you, you're like, wait, why not? What's wrong with my hands? But what ends up happening is we have to develop a system to try to mitigate some of these missizings, because it happens constantly. And so we developed a ring sizer with our manufacturers. We have a little ring sizer box, and we encourage everybody to order one ahead of time. And our made to order rings, we actually require it, because when we're going to go out and make something from scratch, it's really hard to return something like that. So so what happens is we send out the ring sizer ahead of time. Once somebody places an order, they size themselves with it. And then they come back and, they tell us their size, and we go ahead and create the ring for them. Many of our ready to ship rings go out and are the wrong size. So I'd say probably it's a high number. I'd say around between 15 and 20% of our ready to ship rings do come back for a size exchange. So that's something we're working on.
So there's a back and forth, you know.
Oh yeah. No, we have a lot of rings that come back. They're usually a size off. And then we quickly turn that around and get a new order out, usually the same day, which is, you know, just how it is.
No, it's incredible. I always like to figure out how a business works.
Sure.
Before moving into the marketing and how you acquire customers, and then and then we get a full rounded view. And I guess the challenge with rings, with jewelry, as with clothing, is sizing. And it's fascinating. I like the way you're solving, you know, the problem by sending out the ring sizes, especially for the made to the higher value, products. You'll crack the lower value ones, and I guess it's all factored in. The returns, so back and forth is factored into your pricing structure. So are they free? Are returns and exchanges free to? Do you put in a free postage slip, or?
We do, yeah. So we offer free shipping both ways, back and forth. So it's
exactly.
Exactly. So we make it super easy. Our customer service team is incredible. We have them just, you know, as soon as an email comes in, okay, no problem, just drop it in the mail. Here's a label. Let's go. You know, they send it back. Usually we get it within a day or two, and then we immediately ship out another one. We actually don't wait for it to even come back in a lot of cases. As soon as that postage is scanned, we go ahead and just send out the next one.
You send it out, which is brilliant. Okay. And then what advice would you give to listeners around 3PL partner selection? So obviously you guys are not box standard. You're not just selling sunglasses where it's just a, you know, one size fit all, or, you know, a pair of headphones or what have you. You know, there's lots of variations. And you need people with good attention to detail. So for listeners, you know, who are, you know, probably having problems with the 3PL providers, or looking to move to a 3PL, what advice would you give them?
Sure, that's a great question. You know, when we started, we just did it out of our garage, so we were the 3PL, and you know, that was quite a challenge in some respects for my wife and I. So it was. We did great, but it was a lot. It was tough. And then, of course, not only do you have, you know, these giant bags going out to the post office every day, but you have all those exchanges coming back. So you have bags coming in, bags going out. I can't even imagine what our neighbors thought we were doing. But at some point, you know, hopefully with all business growth stories, you find yourself going, okay, this is too much. We need to figure out a better way to handle this. So we were fortunate in that 3PLs exist. So we ended up interviewing a number of them. We ended up going with one in Southern Florida for a while. We were in Florida. And unfortunately, the customer service was terrible. And, you know, that's so important with the 3PL. Being able to communicate with them, being able to pick up the phone, text them, because, you know, customers are coming at you 24 hours a day. And if something happens or an order needs to be, you know, changed real quick before it goes out, you know, you have to be able to get in touch with them. They really need to be an extension of your team. You can't just say, okay, I have a 3PL and they're going to take care of it. Like it's very much a hands-on thing. And
so do you maintain daily communication with the 3PL company?
Absolutely. It's like they're at that time, yeah, it's like they're a department in the company. So we ended up switching from that 3PL in South Florida over to a different 3PL up in Memphis. And they were called Ships A Lot, and they were absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend them. Zach is one of the owners there. He's so fantastic about communication, and truly, you know, anybody can just pack something up and ship it. But the real test, I think, is in their customer service for us, and making sure that our customers are taken care of and making us a priority. And they did, and he was always available to talk to. They were over email, over text, phone. And they made us feel like we were they were an extension of our team. And that was so important. And as we grew, they kind of grew with us in the sense that we had to, you know, once you hit certain volumes, you have to adjust your systems a little bit. We actually were able to work with them. They not only not only did we QC rings internally before we sent it to them, but they were QCing rings. They were sizing the rings before they were putting in the boxes for us.
Okay.
It was a custom relationship, and it significantly reduced our exchange rate because, they're just people too. So they would send out something that was half a size off, by accident, and they'd want to fix it. So we said, okay, well, how can we work together to kind of figure that out? And we said, well, how about we just size the rings before we send them out? That's a great idea. That's what we would do. So
exactly.
It was very much a collaborative effort, and it really paid off. And then, as we grew, it got to the point where it just kind of financially didn't make sense. We wanted a little more control over the packaging and things like that.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Klaviyo is a growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo understands every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. Listen, analyze, and act on your customer data with Klaviyo. Visit klaviyo.com/2x.
So we parted ways as friends, and they're still an amazing company. And we've now taken everything in-house to our own warehouse facility, where we have an amazing team of fulfillment staff and warehouse staff, and they are just kicking butt. I mean, we're sending out over, it just, some days, it's a low volume day, other days, over 1,000 orders, and they're just nailing it every day. It's amazing.
Incredible with the control, and thanks for the tips on 3PL. Providers. Okay. We now know you guys run Shopify. From what I could see, you run.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Have you always run Shopify, or?
We have. So I had some experience in the past with Shopify, and I kind of knew my way around the ecosystem, and we've always been very impressed with it. It's fast. It's reliable. Very rarely do we have downtime. And, the customer service has been great. We're now on Shopify Plus, and, the ability to have some extra control in the checkout and stuff like that has made a huge difference. Scripts and flow and things like that have really, really helped us.
What customizations have you put in place in your checkout flow?
Sure. Yeah. So, a lot of it's kind of behind the scenes. So we do a lot of data analytics and CRO testing and things like that. And the ability to be able to customize your checkout to, and especially with the scripts, like we've found that the Shopify scripts module and the Plus offering has just really allowed us to run certain features that like different pop-ups and free offers and things like that. There are apps for that kind of thing, but we always found them a little clunky and resource intensive. Like they'd really slow down our site. So we have an amazing CTO and developer who've just done such a fantastic job just going through the site and kind of figuring out, okay, where can we shed some code and try to speed things up a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And we found that, a lot of those apps, like they do what we need, but they also do a whole lot of other stuff we don't need.
Exactly.
So what they've been able to do is really kind of get in there and, okay, we need a pop-up. Okay, well, we don't need this huge app to do a pop-up. So let's just write, a little bit of code ourselves and use scripts to kind of decide who gets it and who doesn't get it. And the site's 10 times faster. And it worked out really well.
Yeah, and I can see you run Hotjar, Bogsnag, Babel too for your international. We'll talk about international later. So with Shopify, what are your must-have app recommendations?
Let's see. For us, we use loop returns constantly. I mean,
wow, they were on the show just our last episode was with loop.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Joe Vasana, the head of product, on here.
Oh, very cool. We love those guys.
He's great. Yeah.
Yeah, they've been super supportive,
It's so relevant to you, exactly, especially with what you said. The automated return process where you're probably saving customer service time.
Huge, absolutely. That's the biggest benefit of loop returns. I mean, just having an automated system. When we started out of the garage, I ran the marketing, and my wife, she ran all the customer service, and it was overwhelming. And yeah, and
besides all the other things you have to do,
besides everything else.
Exactly.
Right. That was just a small part of it, but it was it's really hard. Somebody comes in, okay, I have to do a return. Okay, no problem, we'll take care of that. All right, now I got to go into Shopify, I got to go over here, I got to make a label, I got to, and it's the whole thing. And it would probably take 5-10 minutes just to kind of sort it all out, then email the customer back, and then sometimes there's a back and forth, and it can really kind of tie you down. So using an app like Loop Returns has saved us countless hours. And, we have a team where we're fielding, 100 plus tickets a day. And as those tickets are coming in, like I said, our exchange rate's pretty high. So I'd say about 40% of those are people saying, hey, I got the wrong size. And it's like, okay, so now we've eliminated that back and forth. We've eliminated that extra time making a label and doing all this stuff, and say, hey, no problem. Just go to this link, and you can just self-serve. And it's great. It'll print out a label for you, and you send it back, no problem. And also a nice thing too, our returns are fairly low, which we're very fortunate to have. But the Loop will handle that too. Yeah. So Loop, if somebody just says, hey, I want my money back, of course we're going to give them their money back. But the nice thing about Loop is that it gives you an option. It's like, okay, we can give you your money back, or maybe you just didn't like your ring and you didn't realize you could do an exchange. So how about we give you credit towards an exchange? And
it's all automated.
All automated. It's fantastic.
Wow.
So that's a big app for us. And then other apps, we use a ton. Of course, we use Okendo for reviews, which is really great. We use a lot of data exporter type stuff to get our data into Power BI. We have a lot of dashboards that we use to kind of track everything.
We're very much
Sorry. We're using Power BI. We've used a whole bunch of them over the years. But we find Power BI is actually quite flexible. The learning curve is definitely there, but our president is just amazing at it. So he cranks out these reports like crazy. It's awesome.
And it's all visualized. It's by Microsoft. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Cool. Should we let's talk about? Do you have any other app recommendations, or it'd be those two?
I'm trying to think. I think. Gosh, I'm sure there are others. I know we use quite a few of them. Zapier is huge.
Zapier.
I think that's how you say it. Zapier. Constantly using that to connect different bits of data, from over here to Google spreadsheets or email automations, things like that.
What do you use for email?
Sure. So we're using ListTrack. We've used all of them. We've used Klaviyo, we've used MailChimp, we've used Zeus. We found that ListTrack is a little bit more of an enterprise level. Their service is fantastic. And it really allows us to segment, as you do in Klaviyo, but we found that you can get a little deeper in ListTrack. Plus, it has a lot of different automations. So we can actually write scripts that allow us to create, a pop-up over here that'll go straight into this flow, that'll do a bunch of other stuff. And it's really customizable.
Are they CDP or just email, purely email?
They're just email.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, let's move into acquisition. So 3 years ago, what the acquisition look like and how has it evolved? Now that you're an 8-figure plus business, I'm sure you view acquisition totally differently from when you're trying to acquire your first 1,000 customers. Could you take us through the evolution of your customer acquisition strategy over the last 3 years, please?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. It has evolved quite a bit over the years, from the garage days till today. Primarily back in the day, we were using just Facebook and Google search primarily.
Facebook advertising or Facebook organic. Okay, all right.
Facebook ads, yeah. So we primarily went the paid media route, and that's it really. Yeah, those are our only 2 channels. As we've grown, we've become a lot more savvy. Now we have an internal team that handles everything, and they're just fantastic. And we've expanded. So the evolution went from Facebook and Google probably to Facebook, Google, some heavy retargeting using things like Criteo and stuff like that. And then we stopped that for a little bit, and then we kind of went over to display. Today, we're doing, of course, Facebook and Google. We're on YouTube. We're exploring Pinterest. We're doing display, and we're just kind of venturing into native as well. And that's been quite successful. We're using the Yahoo Gemini platform for that, and or I think it's Verizon Media now. But we try to explore different options as we grow. And there are other channels out there besides Facebook and Google. I think it's super important, especially nowadays, to diversify. It can be a challenge. When we started, we were seeing CPAs probably 50% lower than where we are now. And I think part of that is due to just more and more people are using Facebook. There's a lot more competition out there, especially in our world. There's a ton. It feels like every month there's a new competitor popping up.
Copycat brands.
Very much, yeah, very much copycat brands. And it's tough to. You want to make sure you can stay on top of those search results, and on top of Facebook, and the cost just keeps going up. So we're exploring other options as well. We're still spending quite a bit of money on Facebook and Google, but trying to diversify a little bit, and it's working so far.
What does brand name search look like from when you started the business to now?
Brand name search, as in people searching for manly bands?
Yes.
It's gone up significantly. One thing that's super important, and I didn't realize this at the beginning, I knew SEO was important, but we didn't really spend a lot of money on it. Because, we were like, we're running Facebook ads. What do we need to worry about SEO for? That was a huge mistake. So I highly recommend investing in SEO, because organic traffic, just from a holistic overall marketing perspective, it does reduce your advertising costs significantly when you can get customers going to your site from just an organic search. So it helped. So we did end up, in about a year in, we started to really invest heavily in SEO. And it made a huge difference. So I'd say about 40% of our site traffic is organic. Wow. And it's a significant amount of traffic, and it drives a significant amount of sales. So we still invest in that. I highly recommend having some sort of SEO strategy at the very least, to work in conjunction with a paid strategy.
Well, and you guys are doing a terrific job. According to SEMrush, your search volume for brand name is currently 33,000 a month, and that obviously excludes peak periods, which is probably summer months when a lot of people get married. So fantastic work here. Cool. So in regards to acquisition, so now you're diversifying traffic, traffic sources. So how do you, this is a big question a lot of D2C brands have as a big challenge, and the question is, what is your blended CPA? Obviously you don't need to share the exact CPA numbers, but how do you figure out, when you're putting so many channels into the mix, how do you manage your cost per acquisition? For those of you who don't know what CPA is, because it can, are you using your dashboard to sort it out, your BI dashboard, or are you doing this manually? How do you sort of balance things out, balance spend out? When you said you're going into Pinterest, or you started doing Pinterest, where do how do you figure out the threshold for Pinterest and and balance business out without breaking the bank?
Yeah, well, we're still trying to figure out Pinterest. It's a whole separate animal from everything else that we're doing. We tried it in the past too, and it didn't work out for us. But I know it works out for jewelry brands, so it shouldn't be a problem. We just haven't cracked the nut. So, but using the rest of it, Facebook, Google, the native email, all of it together, we try to take a holistic approach. We spent months trying to sort out our attribution models and kind of fix GA, so that Google Analytics, so that we can, really get in there channel by channel and piece it all together. And we've done a pretty good job. But what we've still found is, Facebook will take credit for Google's sales. Verizon will take credit for Facebook sales. So it can get a little muddy. And, we have some systems in place and some scripts in place to try to filter that a little bit better. But generally speaking, we look at it more as a holistic approach. So, we'll take all of our paid spend, and then we'll take all of our, our total sales, order volume, and we'll kind of divide that all up to get like a blended CPA. And our CPA ranges, it depends on the month. We try to keep it less than $100, but it certainly can go higher than that. So,
Yeah, the fine art of marketing is figuring out how to allocate your resources.
Right.
We found, and yeah, it's challenging.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so you talked about you mentioned something really interesting, which is the Verizon Media, which is the Yahoo Gemini platform, and you earlier mentioned it's doing quite well. Why do you think it's doing quite well? Are you doing anything differently? What's been your experience with native?
Yeah, so when we tried native a few years ago, back when I was running our advertising, which was a wild time, and it didn't work at all, and hands down it was because of me. So like everything else, we've all burned a lot of money on Google and certainly Facebook. But as you start to grow and as your business grows, you can start to hire experts in their field, and that's what we did. So now we have an amazing team that is absolutely brilliant at all of this stuff. And what we found with native is it very much is a content play. So it's you can't think of it, and like all these other channels, you have to think of it differently. Google's very different from Facebook. Facebook's very different from display, in a lot of ways. So you have to really kind of come up with your own strategy for each channel. So with Verizon, we've spent a lot of time with our graphic design department creating, moving banners and GIFs and, video assets that we can then repurpose for all the other channels, but focus initially on these display type native platforms and then drive traffic to landing pages. Like it's probably common sense to most marketers, but we didn't realize that stuff in the beginning. So now we've invested heavily in produced content and video content. We have 2 graphic designers, a bunch of Photoshop experts. Like we're absolutely, taking a lot of time and kind of pushing towards content because, at the end of the day, native is very much, like I was saying, like content heavy. So you have to make sure you have stuff that's going to stand out.
Interesting. What are the most important elements in native? The headline, when you say content, do you analyze the scroll depth of the articles? Are people reading the entire paragraphs long, or are they sticking to, do the first 2 paragraphs matter? What about the complementary image or video to that piece of content?
Sure. So what we found is that the headline and the main image are the most important. It does seem like people aren't reading as much, but they're definitely reading the headline, which is great. And then, I think the use of the images in the articles or in the the hero image is really what's capturing them. So they see the headline, they go, oh, this could be interesting, and they click through. I'm sure there's a percentage of people reading it, but we haven't really seen a huge difference in the body of the copy. But the headline and the main image seem to be the driving factors.
Super interesting. And then you briefly mentioned about display. What platform are you using for display advertising?
Right now, we're just using Google as the main platform and driving stuff through there, which is working out really well. We're doing a lot of slightly different but shopping type PLA sort of ads that are really, really doing great as well. And again, it's about the same type of philosophy behind that. It's very much about the content. It's about how the customer is connecting with that image or that video or that stuff like that. That's where we really focus, and I think it's made a big difference.
Interesting. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x eCommerce. I'm on your Facebook ads, and I've just seen quite a genius thing you guys have done. I'm going to share my screen again. So for those of you watching this on YouTube, check this out. So I'm looking at your Facebook ads for the United Kingdom, and this is not just box standard stuff. You guys are using the Union Jack, So it can't get more country level specific than this, so you're appealing to a certain kind of individual that, that cherishes the Union Jack. It feels manly about it. You see what I mean? Yeah, you're it's a patriotic type of person, and that's kind of it's the same strategy in the United States, but you're really personalizing your ads, guys. This is phenomenal. Yeah, this is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we do that. we've discovered like in the way that we name our rings and we write a description, it really is about connecting with your customers. So you do that on the high product level. Okay, I want a manly ring, or I want a ring for a man, and that's one way. But then as you dig deeper, okay, what's the name of the ring? What's the description of the ring? And in our advertising, it's the same thing. You want to make sure that whole experience follows through. So if we can connect with you in an ad as well, that's just another way that we're connecting with our customers and driving that emotional response. So yeah, we do that as much as we can. We have a whole bunch of things coming down the road where, it really gets in. We have a copywriter that, you'll have to tell me if that copy's okay, but we tried really hard to kind of customize the copy, even to the point where we're using words that, I look at and I'm like, we don't really say it like that here. but over there, it means something. So, we try to connect as much as we can. Yeah,
that's the value of a copywriter, one, and the power of personalization. I'll check the copy and let you know. I'll give you some feedback.
Thanks.
The other thing I noticed on your sites was, on your US Facebook ads was very much around, and I'd really like insights here, was some of your ads actually push out the fact that you take, payment plans. So one of them is like, you pay $19.95 per month. Does it work to just go straight? That's probably a mid-funnel ad, for people who haven't, probably reacted to the initial offer. I don't know what the Facebook ad strategy looks like, but do you find that what's the name again? Payment plan platforms improve conversions?
We do, yeah. So, initially when we launched the payment plan program, we were doing it primarily for our more expensive and premium made-to-order rings. So, if somebody wanted a cool meteorite ring, the meteorite is not inexpensive, and that might be $1,000 ring or a $1,500 ring. And, unfortunately, they weren't able to buy it. So we wanted to make it available to them in other ways. So that's where these payment platforms can really come into play. So what they do is they allow you to split your payments up over time. So initially we were going with a platform that allowed us to do up to 3 months. We've since switched over to another platform called Bread, which has been really great. It does drive quite a bit of conversions, especially on the premium rings. But we can split that up in chunks of either 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And it really gives our customers another option in how they want to pay for things. And we have seen conversion increase on those more expensive rings because of it. And surprisingly, we've seen conversions increase a little bit with it on the ready-to-ship rings, the less expensive rings. So, weddings are expensive. So any way someone can save a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, it adds up. And people are taking advantage of it, which is great, especially now. Yeah.
Exactly. So do you use the Shop Pay? Because they just introduced, Shopify just announced stage payments with their Shop Pay app, or to use a another third party app for payment plans?
Yeah, we're not using Shop Pay for the payment, the splitting up of the payments. We do have Shop Pay available on the site as a payment method, which allows people to just use their Shopify account, save their information, and pay real quick. Which is, I love it. I think it's great. But
it's genius.
Yeah, it really is smart. Like Apple Pay or things like that. We also offer Google, Amazon, and PayPal, which I thought was a lot in the beginning to have all of those options, but it's actually made a lot of sense for us to have all them. Our customers are using all of them. They all perform really well, especially Amazon and PayPal, and then of course regular Shopify payments for the standard credit card. That's still by far the highest used version. But yeah, so we use an app called Bread to kind of split everything up right now.
Okay, Bread. Okay, cool. Your product pages are quite impressive also. Sorry, this is almost like a tear down now.
Oh, please, yeah.
But yeah, your product pages are amazing. So those of you, just check it out. Just go to moneybands.com. You have your image, you have your reviews at the top. Some guests have talked about the importance of putting reviews, top of fold. There's a width and the size, part, which is essential. What I really like about it is the story you tell, the persona, which I mentioned earlier without actually looking at your site. You actually put persona here. Be the rock star. So I'm on the rock star page. So there's a lot of creativity, going here where you're given these, each product a personality. Yeah. So I love that about it. And it's not a long narrative. It's 2 lines, which is easy to digest, on the web. And then you have your features on the right-hand side, and then you have other similar products below. And the piece resistance is the reviews. Yeah, it's great. So what do you use for reviews? You did mention.
Yeah, we're using Okendo.
Okendo.
And,
okay.
Yeah, they're great. Their support is awesome. Just really good company, and we found that works really well. We have the automated emails that go out. People can upload videos or photos, as well as their review and their rating, and it's just kind of seamless. It's been great.
Amazing. And then you have videos at the bottom, and there's also discounts available for Money Ring Sizer. So you get 20% off your next order when you purchase a ring sizer, and get peace of mind for knowing, okay. Yeah, so it's pretty detailed. These I can imagine have massive SEO value just due to the depths of content reviews and all that kind of stuff on these pages. Okay, cool. Amazing. There was another thing I wanted to ask you around, which was very much about your phone number. How often, given the fact that you put the phone number, at the top right corner of the website on desktop version, how often do customers ring you, and what is the percentage of calls from acquisition calls versus customer service issue calls, issue resolution calls?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we chose early on to put our phone number in the top of the site. It's important that for us that customers can reach us directly and quickly. We also found it built a lot of trust. Conversion rate did go up a little bit. So it's something I do recommend for everybody. Make sure customers see you as a real company. They can pick up the phone, get someone on the other end. I would say probably get between 50 and 100 phone calls a day. We have a team of people that
1,500.
I'm sorry, 50 to 100.
50 to
Yes, 50 to 100.
Okay.
Yes, and so the phones are busy, and each call can last 3 to 5 minutes, depending. And in terms of percentages, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say it's probably, I'd say maybe less than half are pre-purchase. Most people decide to purchase on the site without making the phone call. So most of the calls are people saying, hey, how do I exchange my ring? Or, hey, I got my ring and, it's the wrong size or something like that.
Have you got on-site chat facility?
We do. So we actually just changed that. We were using Intercom for a long time, and we just switched over to Gorgeous as our customer service ticketing system. So they integrate a little differently with their chat. They have an on-site chat, which is really nice and clean and easy. And it creates tickets from every chat, which is great. And so we switched over to them. And our CTO has done a great job reducing friction as much as he can across the site. So he spent a lot of time kind of looking at how site chat works and why people are motivated to use site chat. And what we found is most of our customers are using site chat for customer service related requests or inquiries. So, so what he did is he got an app that allows customers to first ask the question. And so instead of just, hey, chat with us, it's like, hey, have a question, and then they type in the question, and chances are we've been asked that question before. So to reduce customer service friction, it'll basically pull up a knowledge base. So if the person asks a question that we have an answer to, they can click right there, get the answer they need on the site. And if that answer isn't available, or if they have some other questions, they can click a different button, and that'll connect them via live chat to an agent. So we found that that's reduced customer service tickets and live chat requests significantly. And I think the customer's a lot happier too, because they don't necessarily want to wait for someone to chat with, they just want the answer. So I thought that was a really smart resolution to that problem, and it's worked out really well.
Interesting. Your tech stack, from what I'm picking up now, your tech stack looks is varying towards enterprise, but agile enterprise. Your choice of platforms just cater for the scale, but they have a very modern agile outlook to solving problems, which is fascinating. Yeah. So the actual question I had, because I covered that up, that was like a filler question, was to do with the brand image. I noticed there is an individual on your Instagram page, on your Facebook ads page. He's bearded. He looks strong. You use lots of bearded men. This seems intentional, as to the kind of person. Obviously it links back to manly band, to the brand name, but it almost feels like you're selling, bed. It looks very similar to like a bed brand, if that makes sense. Is this intentional?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, cool.
And it is intentional. Yeah. When we started, we were looking for stock photography of okay, so who could we have on the on the homepage? Because we didn't have models at the beginning, and we found this gentleman and this photographer who created these amazing images with this guy with the beard, and it's almost like an internal joke now. We're like, hey, go see if the guy with the beard is available. So they'll go and they'll find these amazing stock photos. The photographer's outstanding, the model's just perfect. And we use them for quite a few things. We also internally, we have models that come in, we'll do photo shoots with. But yeah, Eric from Beard Brand has actually been a bit of an inspiration. He's just fantastic the way they create content.
Yeah, he was on the podcast a while ago.
Great guy.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, this is brilliant stuff. Do you have any tips for e-tailers listening now that are like in low 7 figures, mid 7 figures, looking at the next 6-12 months to hit that 8-figure mark, the $10 million plus mark? What should they engineer? What should they do in their businesses?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, it's a very different business. Once I'd say, you start doing even 6 figures, once you start your store, and as you grow, you'll find different phases of growth, much like, a human life. You have your childhood, and then you have your teenage years. It's the same thing, I think, with the company.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Klaviyo is a growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo understands every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. Listen, analyze, and act on your customer data with Klaviyo. Visit klaviyo.com/2x.
And at least that's how our experience has been. So, obviously in the beginning, it's Facebook ads, let's get sales, let's, just do what we got to do to get going. As you grow, it becomes a different animal altogether, I think. And as we cross the 6-figure line and the 7-figure line, I think the biggest thing that we've started to learn is the importance of a solid team. It is at that level, it's really hard to run it by yourself, at least in my experience. So for us, it was critically important, if we were to continue to grow, to hire people that we could trust, that were experts in their field, that were absolutely amazingly talented and just really understood the brand and how we wanted to grow. And our whole team has become such an integral part of our experience. We rely on every one of them 100% in all the different departments that they work in. And, we're now a team of 25 people, and we're continuing to grow. We're going to be hiring more people in the coming months. And they're all serving a very specific purpose, and they're all really good people. And I think once you get to that level, it's important to be able to delegate. It's important to be able to have people focus on what they're experts at. And at least in our experience, building that team is really what's helped us get to that next level. And that's what I would recommend people really focus on when you get to this level, because that's really what drives us.
Amazing. What's your take on culture?
Culture is super important. I think it's important that your staff, your team, feels like they are not only contributing and participating, but that the business represents them in a certain way. How to describe it? Culture is kind of a nebulous thing to describe, but for us, it's very much a feeling of family. Like we care a great deal about each other. We take a lot of time to do team building and stuff like that. We do team lunch on Fridays. We play a game. Like it's super important. Our Slack channels, we have a couple of different ones that are really just for not letting off steam per se, but just having fun. So we have one that's for our pets. We post cute pictures of our pets. And people like them and laugh and joke. Mm-hmm. We have one where we call it it's called April Fun Days, because we haven't updated the month, but it's basically just people telling jokes and weird gifs and memes and stuff like that. As important as it is that people stay focused and work there 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, it's also important that we recognize that they're people too. And our team is very much we call it part of the Manly Bands family. So we want them to feel fulfilled, and they're able to contribute ideas. And we all jump in for everything. I'll go down, I'll help ship some stuff. Our warehouse guy will help set up lunch. Like it's very much a collaborative effort. And I think that brings the team closer and ultimately allows us to grow even more.
Fascinating. Your revenue per head should be minimum 400,000, with 8 figures and 25 members of staff. So that's super, that's great stuff. Okay. What resources do you tend to, what's your go-to, do you tend to use regularly from a business strategy and also from a tactical standpoint?
Sure. That's super important as well. So, our team is kind of handling the day-to-day, and Michelle, my co-CEO and wife, we kind of head up the strategy in a lot of ways. And, we'll always go back and forth, but sometimes it's really nice to have people on the outside who have a lot of experience to kind of give ideas, or, hey, I've been through this before, and just kind of collaborate with. So we actually have a number of advisors that we work with that we meet with on a weekly basis, and just kind of throw ideas back and forth. And a lot of those discussions have driven growth in ways that we hadn't planned for, from different partnerships to, certain publicity campaigns that we weren't even thinking of. But by talking to our advisors and getting advice from people who've done this kind of stuff, especially an e-commerce advisor, has just been amazing to help us grow and do things we hadn't thought of. And then we have another advisor that helps us quite a bit, like just on the the financial side and making sure we're planning for this type of growth, and here's how we should look at tax options and things like that. That once you have your head kind of in everything, sometimes ideas you don't even think about it. And they're like, so what are you doing about this? It's like, that's a great question. Yeah, firefighting constantly. Yeah. So it's really helpful to have some outside advice to kind of help us develop our strategy and come up with cool ideas.
How many hours do you spend on a day? Do you work full time, or have you seen as you've matured, you spend fewer hours in the business at work?
Well, when it was just Michelle and I, we were just always working. I know I couldn't give you an hour number, but it was high. And I think most entrepreneurs, that's just how it is. And I think that's a good thing. It builds character. But as you grow, as you grow and expand, part of the reason to hire an amazing team is to also take some of that, some of those responsibilities off your plate. So we still work over 40 hours a week. I mean, easily 50 or 60, but it's not as crazy and it's not as stressful. Those hours aren't filled with such, oh my gosh, oh God, we have to figure this out. It's much more relaxed now. I mean, there's always stuff to do, but I think another benefit of building a great team is that it does reduce that stress and anxiety level.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's different managing people versus doing. And if, the team is as A star as yours, then, it's even easier that way.
It helps significantly. Yeah. No, we're very fortunate to have the team that we have. We're very lucky.
Okay, John. Yeah, I think we're going to call it a wrap, but before you go, you're a special guest, and I would like you to come into a lightning round. There are 5 to 6 questions.
Great.
And if you could answer each question with a sentence, just one sentence, it'd be great. Ready when you are. Okay.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do this.
Fantastic. Okay, what advice would you give to yourself 5 years ago?
Oh my gosh, delegate, and learn. So as you're delegating and have more time, take that time to learn and grow.
Awesome. Are you a morning person?
Kind of middle of the road. Like I'm at work by 9. I wouldn't say I'm a morning person in the sense that I'm up at 5, but get there at a reasonable time.
Do you have a daily morning routine?
That's something I'm actually working on, having a little bit more structure in the morning. So I'd say no, I don't have a morning routine yet.
Okay. What 2 things can't you live without?
Oh gosh. Okay, phone and my wife.
Awesome. Fantastic. What book are you currently reading?
Oh gosh. Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership.
U.S.
Awesome.
Navy SEALs. Lead and win. Yes, it's important to understand ownership.
Brilliant. What's been your best mistake to date? By that I mean a setback that is giving you the biggest feedback.
Mistake to date. Oh, there were many mistakes. I think maybe putting too many eggs in one basket. We had an issue with Facebook. Nothing too serious, but our CPAs were just getting higher and higher and higher. And what we found is it hurt our bottom line, and it was just a mess. So just keep an eye on that.
And there's that platform flux, the fluctuations on the platform are a thing, essentially, especially at the end of every quarter.
That's why we try to diversify a little bit more now in case something goes wrong, because you don't want one platform to just mess up the whole business.
No. Final question. If you could choose a single book or resource that has made the highest impact on how you view building a business and growth, which would it be?
It applies a little bit less now because we're a little bit of a bigger business, but the first book that I read, and you probably hear this a lot, was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. That was probably the first real entrepreneurial book that I read back in the day, and it really inspired me and kind of showed me that you can do online type businesses. Like it's okay to separate yourself from quote the real world and be in the online internet e-tailer type space, and and about delegating and doing things online and managing your hours and stuff like that. So it kind of opened my mind to the possibility of an online business, which has now kind of come back around to more traditional type business, but it's definitely eye-opening.
True. Johnathan, John, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. So for those of you who've made it to this parts of the segment, I encourage you to visit Manly Bands. It's Manly, MANLYBANDS.com. Have a look at all that has been discussed. Do you hang out on social media at all, or you're too busy at work?
I'm trying to get into the Twitter, but I haven't quite figured that out. No, just on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being on the show.
Fantastic.